Sound. All right, mate. How are we? Welcome, Dunty.
Hi, mate. Cheers, pal.
Yeah. How are we? Obviously Easter weekend. You have a good weekend, mate?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, a few drinks on Saturday night and a bit of a barbecue, and that was it, really. And then paying for it since. A bit rough yesterday.
Get back on it after this week. All right, mate. Perfect. So, obviously, Dunty here. Basically, the idea behind this podcast is just to give you guys an idea about different players' careers, things like that. So Dunty's going to tell us kind of how it all started, what he's done throughout his career. I'm sure you've got more stories than you've told me. Obviously, we know each other a little bit now, don't we? Anyway, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it, mate. So we'll get stuck into it straight away. Tell me, kind of looking back. Obviously, you've done loads throughout your career, and kind of you recently just retired, haven't you? So tell me, kind of rewind how it all started, mate, from the start. Maybe a little kid, 5 years old. You're a goalkeeper by, obviously, throughout your career. Yeah, just tell me how it first started, mate. How did you get going?
So I think I was about 6. I went to do like Easter and like some holiday like football camps and stuff like that. So I lived on a road where there was loads of young kids and stuff like that. So my mum and dad were working one day, and I went to my mate's house just to sort of like obviously to be babysat. And his mum and dad sent us both off to like a football camp sort of thing. Just to, like, I never really played football. I had any interest up to that point, I don't think, and just loved it. And then just carried on from there. So then signed for a few local teams around Real Hearts. I played for all the way through, which is, I don't know if it's still going now, but at the time it was probably the biggest youth football club around. So they had 8 teams all the way through, right from under 5s, under 6s, right through to 16s when you join adult football. So basically played for Real Hearts all the way through then. I actually started out as a striker.
Yeah.
So I used to play up front, like big target man, because I was a little bit taller than most when I sort of stopped growing when I was like 17, 18. But as a kid, I was quite tall, so I started off up front, and I was actually half decent. And then I started playing centre mid when I went to high school. So I played centre mid up until, so from high school 11 to like, and I only went in goal because the lad who played in goal for our youth team broke his foot. I thought, it'd be a laugh going in goal for the rest of the game. I was 14 the first time I played in goal. Okay. And I went in goal and ended up staying there, and I thought, I'm actually all right at this. And sorry, go on.
I was going to say, so you'd not, see, I don't even know this, so I'd almost assume you play goalie maybe from a young age. Not playing until you were 14?
I didn't play in goal until I was 14, properly anyway. Obviously, threw the gloves on, like messing around with your mates and stuff. But as a kid, I wasn't playing goal proper game until I was 14. But in the same season, I went on trial at Chester as a midfielder. I didn't get in anything. And then the same season, I then went on trial as a keeper, and they kind of looked at me a little bit like, I've seen you before. And I was like, oh yeah, I was here to start the season as a midfielder, but I've only just gone in goal. And so I stayed there. I was at Chester, like centre of excellence, didn't get signed or anything, but I was there for like a year and a half, just doing a few training sessions and playing games and stuff like that, but as well as playing for my junior side.
Okay, so what was that up until Chester? Till you about 16, was it?
Yeah.
So you've been a keeper for like 2 years?
Yeah, so 18 months, 2 years I've been a keeper for. And then I don't know what happened with it. I think the centre, I'm not actually sure if it was a centre of excellence or like, it wasn't the academy. So it's sort of like they had their sort of, I don't know if it's like a satellite centre where keepers just went in and you played the odd game here and there. It was just a bit of extra coaching. So I've never really been coached as a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
It's all just sort of picked up on a whim, but I played hockey as well. So I played in goal, playing hockey. So I don't know
what age was that?
I think I was 13 when I started playing. I only started playing my teacher in school, who was our IT teacher. He tried bribing me because I was pissing about in his class, and he was saying, "Oh, put you in detention." That was kind of on like one of my last sort of warnings going on detentions. If I'd have got suspended, if I'd have reached a certain things, I was kind of like, "Oh, I can't do that," because he's like, "Well, if you couldn't play hockey then," because he needed lads to play hockey, and because I was like a bit quite popular in school, I hope he was thinking maybe I'll try and get a few of my mates playing, and then I'll have half these team. I think only one of my mates came, but they ended up playing hockey just to keep me out of detention, but I actually really enjoyed it. But I went in goal to play hockey because I was awful with the stick. So I thought, I'll just stand in goal with all the pads on. It can't, like, it's not going to hurt. And in the end, I really enjoyed that. I ended up playing for Wales with the hockey and playing for real adults, because in hockey you can play adult sports, adult team from 15. So you kind of have to grow up really quick. And I think that's what helped me massively, because I was 14, 15, but playing with men. So sort of like they were looking after me, but at the same time I knew I couldn't act like a child because that I just wouldn't have stood for it. So I think that put me in instead. Because then when I was 16, I went to college in Llandrillo, played for the college teams, and a couple of mates there played for Llandudno. So I played half a season for Llandudno when I was 16 in the Cymru Alliance. Again, sort of playing, I only played 4 or 5 games. I was on the bench mainly, but I played 4 or 5 games. And that was another thing, again, being around men. Sort of like you can't act like you can in front of your mates when you're that age because they just won't put up with it.
Yeah. All right. So rewind back to that kind of, was the hockey then the first experience of being a goalie? And
yeah, basically, yeah. So I played hockey. So I was in goal for hockey I only played it for 2 or 3 years then, because once I started playing adult football, they played the same time as hockey on a Saturday afternoon. So I kind of had to pick one.
Yeah.
So obviously, football was more important at that time.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been in goal in hockey and it's minging. I don't know what, like, we had a lad for my high school. He now goes on to GB. So obviously he can smash it. Everyone else couldn't even kick. Everyone else played football. So whenever we played hockey, it'd just be like the lads that could run basically got on the hockey team and kind of hit a stick. I remember he stuck me in goal once. He was like, "Oh, he must have been like winding me up or something," basically going, "Oh, get in goal, Chris." I was hitting a few balls at it, and he was literally like top corner and straight in the chest. It's horrible, isn't it?
The first couple of times, I was just like, I'm standing there and letting someone hit a rock hard ball at me here.
It still hurts really, as well.
Really can't feel it. Say again.
I said it's still different. I felt it. So.
I'd have a bit more padding than you, wouldn't I?
All right, mate. So, Sam, that's kind of your first experience as a goalkeeper. So, at this point, you were still playing outfield, weren't you, as a footballer as well? Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that then. So, like, obviously, playing football, you kind of had a trial at Chester, so you must have had something about you, kind of a little bit more about you than maybe others who've not had trials or anything like that. Were you half decent? Obviously, you said you were a striker, then moved back.
I'd like to think I got League Player of the Year, obviously at junior level, so I sort of got voted that I was the best player at my age group for one season. I think it was 15. That was the last season that I played out in, and then the following year I ended up going in goal. But I sort of I was good slatters to my knees, as sort of most kids and lads have, sort of thing. And I struggled quite bad with it. The pain was sort of like after games and stuff like that. I've been quite big pain. I had 2 big lumps under my knee. That sort of I don't know, it comes from growing and stuff like that, doesn't it? But so it kind of stopped. I couldn't really run, couldn't do anything really about being in pain. So it kind of natural progression to go in goal because you don't really have to run. So that basically just got then stuck there, because I think if I wasn't any good, I'd have probably gone back to be playing out. But kind of the manager's son who played in goal was out for a long time with his broken ankle, so I was kind of just like, I'll stay in here and see what happens. And then come next season, the club that I played for, he had got to a certain age, and then it's because there was so many lads, they made 2 teams from the one age group. So then we got split down the middle, and I went to play in goal for one team, and the other goalkeeper went and back into the other team. So
where were you at? Where are you at now, Dunty? Sorry, mate.
I was still at the junior club, Real Hearts.
Oh, okay.
So then I ended up playing the last couple of years of school as a goalkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stayed in there. So I left school at 16, went to college. At a club then, I signed for Llandudno as an adult team, but you could still play junior football because the team that I played for played on Sundays in the Queensferry League.
Yeah.
So I played Saturday, Sunday, sort of on the bench with Llandudno. I think I played a few games when the first choice keeper got injured, but then playing on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So that was up till I was 17. I was 17. I left Llandudno because the manager left and all the lads left. And I went to sign for Real. I played for Real Reserves a couple of times. And all the local lads, so all the lads I was in school with were all at Real, and no one was getting a chance because the first two were doing really well at the time. So when John Horse was manager, so it was around the time when they were winning the league's the first time they won 5 trophies in its first year, and they had a load of lads from Liverpool playing. No local lads were getting a chance.
Yeah.
But you can say understood that because they were winning everything. So obviously what they were doing was working, but there's a lot of lads who we all felt we were good enough to sort of get half a chance. So then we all signed for Prestatyn, enough. So like myself, Michael Parker, John Fisher Cook, Stephen Holt, like these are all names like lads that I grew up with and like played with and kind of knew. We all signed for Prestatyn because they were kind of saying, well, come play for us. We're a couple of leagues below, but we'll give you the chance to play men's football and hopefully we'll go through the leagues and see if we can get to where we're at. And that's exactly what happened. I think within 3 years, we'd won 3 promotions. 3 promotions in 4 years from Tier 4, and we were in the Welsh Prem within 4 years of all signing there.
So what league, I was going to come on to this later, but the league we're in now in terms of Prestatyn, so they were in the Welsh Prem, weren't they, doing well?
Yeah,
so you joined Prestatyn.
Prestatyn with Tier 4, so I can't what league was it called? I think it was the Clwyd Prem or something like that years ago.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So then the first years we won that league, and then we went into the Welsh Alliance, which we won again. I think we won that unbeaten, so we went the whole season unbeaten. And then we went into the Cymru Alliance, and I think we finished 3rd. I think Llangefni may have won it that season, and then the year after that, we won the Cymru Alliance to get promoted to the Welsh Prem.
Yeah, so it's just been kind of full of local lads basically who left Real, went to join Prestatyn and just built it up and just kind of year on year. So were you all fairly young, I take it, when you first started in that 4th division? Yeah,
I'd say everyone was aged between 17 and 22, 23.
Okay.
And mates, like all lads from Real Prestatyn. There was no lads from anywhere else. No one got paid. It was just sort of playing for a club that gave us a chance. So we went through a couple of managers as well. Dave Fuller, who was a local teacher. He was the first manager I played for, and he was brilliant. And eventually he just sort of like saw that he couldn't take us much further. Gibbo, who's the manager at Flint now, who played for us at the time, he was about to sign for Sheffield Wednesday, weirdly, the first team. And then the manager got sacked as he was on trial, and the new manager came in and said, oh no, I'm not going to sign you. So then he had nowhere to go. So he was like, well, I'll come play for Prestatyn for half a season just for my mates, because he's from Prestatyn. So he kind of got from signing from a team in the Championship to playing in like the 3rd division of Welsh football.
Yeah.
And so he took over because he kind of saw what the club was trying to do and what all the players we had. And he sort of thought, if a new manager comes in and brings his own new players, all these players are going to just have to go elsewhere. And he didn't want that. So at like 26, 27, he took the job on. And then we won the Cymru Alliance in his 2nd season and then got promotion to the Premier.
And obviously it just all went from there, basically.
Happened, And obviously he's gone on to get his pro licence and done really well. He's at Flint now. They've been at Connors Quay.
That's kind of big thing for me, because I was 26, 27, like prime your career, really, isn't it? So leading into anyway.
I think back to when I was 26, 27, there's no chance I could have been a manager at a football club. And obviously what was expected of you back then, because I think we were only in the 3rd division, so it wasn't as intense, but sort of like knowing players, knowing how to set players up, how to do training and stuff like that. It's just things that you wouldn't think that you'd have to know at that age.
No, definitely. I think you're still like, not immature, but you don't know enough about life, do you? Basically.
Especially wanting that commitment as well, like dealing with 20 other lads' problems and like chasing them, like make sure they all get to train and things like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The biggest thing is it's not really knowing tactics and all this stuff. I suppose it's 3rd division, isn't it? So if you've got the best players, normally you do well, don't you? So it's more just dealing with a group of lads who probably, some of them your age or older, and getting respect, isn't it? Yeah. We'll come back to kind of Prestatyn in a second. I'm kind of wanting to talk about kind of going back to when you became a keeper. So I know you were saying like you hockey, then you had bad knees and stuff, you went in goal. When you first went in goal with football, was it a case of someone thought you could be good in goal, or was it just a case of...
No, I just volunteered, because when the lad played in goal, Anthony, when he got injured, it was kind of just like everyone was kind of looking around. Obviously, he broke his ankle, and you kind of like gutted for your mate, but then kind of he has to take his gloves off, and the manager, Tony, just looked at one of us and goes, right, who's going in goal? So I was kind of just like, oh, I'll do it, don't mind, because we had a really good side, I think, so I wouldn't have had much to do. So just standing there and just having a laugh. And then next week, stayed in goal, and then I was kind of doing all right. I've never been coached, and like even at that age, you're not really getting coached, just getting balls served at you and a volley by one of the parents, more than likely. So there's no coaching. I just picked it up straight away. But because I did with hockey, the basics are still there, really, aren't they? You're just trying to get in, because obviously you're not catching much in hockey. You're just getting in the way of things. So as long as you can pick up the flight of the ball and read things and read how your positioning is, and it's a bigger goal and a smaller ball, I know, but it's still the same principles, isn't it? Keeping the ball out of the net.
Well, no, you'll also see a lot of lads who, it's like crossover sports, isn't it? Like if someone's a decent hockey goalie, I remember we'd have a decent hockey goalie in our like 7-a-side team, just because it's like the positions and things like that they just know, don't you? So it all kind of transfers over. So there wasn't really a coach then at that level that was all done to look. It was basically just someone got injured, you go in. But you said you were player of the season at this point as well, weren't you?
Yeah.
So weren't like the rest of the lads like, hang on a second, why are we putting our best player in goal? Or
I don't think that many of them were that bothered, to be honest.
No.
All
right, cool. So from there, you said you had a few trials at like Chester and things like that. Was there? And obviously you've moved up, Prestat and things like this, and gone in and just kind of like you've become a goalkeeper. Has there been any? At the moment, it's been like off the cuff, hasn't it? When did it start taking it a little bit more seriously in terms of like, was there ever a coach that started to teach you a little bit more about actually?
Honestly, never been coached up until the first goalkeeper coach I had was when I signed for Real a couple of years ago. Andy Wilmot, that's the first proper goalkeeper coach I've had. Every club I've been at, even the time at Prestat, never had a goalkeeper coach. It's just kind of all just like picked up, done everything on a whim, kind of. I've seen something, so if I've seen a goalkeeper in the Premier League try something or like do something, I've kind of worked on it myself in training. So I've never had a goalkeeper coach until I've kind of, maybe a bit of natural sort of talent doing it that way. But until I was, when I was signed for Real, 31, 32, I'd never had a goalkeeper coach. And then at Gresford, when I went back there, they had a goalkeeper coach. Steve Jones was brilliant. Andy Wilmot at Real was brilliant as well. They added little things to me, like sort of like techniques and things like that, and things to do. But up to that point, it was just all just learning on the job, basically.
And when you went to Chester Centre of Excellence, I know that wasn't an academy back then, was it, or anything?
No.
More just kind of extra sessions. Were you coaching a goalkeeper then, or?
Yeah, but it's not one-to-one because they've got like 7 or 8 goals. You're only there for an hour and a half, maybe once a week. So you're kind of like in a little group of 7 or 8 goalkeepers. And I suppose you do get a bit of coaching there, but there's no like, it's just like a bit of footwork, like go through a few cones and then catch a volley sort of thing. There was nothing, no advanced, no work there. But they're the basics you've already got to be able to get in there, really. Because if you can't catch the ball at that point, you wouldn't be there anyway. So there wasn't really much coaching there either, really.
Yeah. So when did you? So you've kind of gone through your whole career like self-coached, haven't you? Really, I imagine.
Yeah.
Gibbo playing at a better level would have given you tips and coaches. Was there anyone in particular throughout your career, except for maybe specific goalkeeping coach who kind of helped you most in terms of giving?
One of the committee members at Prestat, Martin Jones, was a goalkeeper when he played, and he kind of always give me like little tips and pointers or like a soundboard sort of thing. Like, so if I hadn't played well, he'd say something, or if I'd played well, he'd sort of like, he'd be the one I'd turn to at Prestat and really to want to talk to, because kind of, if you've not really played in goal, I don't really think you can understand the sort of position of the job. It's the same as, and I think I think I could understand any other position on the pitch, including being goal, even though I don't play him. But I think if you haven't played in goal, you can't really judge. Like, you see people on telly now, like Gary Neville, Carragher, and like they're talking about goalkeeping and stuff like that, and like it's just lazy to, they say things like, "Oh, you can't get beaten at your near post," or like anything like that. And like it's just so lazy. Yeah, and like it's just so lazy to say that, like some of the cliches, basically, that like, or any, because I used to be told growing up by managers, like, anything inside your 6-yard box, you've got to come for and you get. It's like, I know it's only a 6-yard box, as in 6 yards out, but like it's probably 13,
wide.
14 foot wide. It's a big distance to cover. Like saying if a corner comes in or a cross comes in, and I know what you're saying, if it is 6 yards in front of you, you should be able to get there. But if you're on your front post and the ball's put over your head to the back post, how are you supposed to be able to get there? But that's one of the sticks they beat you with, isn't it? Like you shouldn't get beaten at your near post, but like I'm going off on a tangent here. But
No, sorry.
if sort of a player's cutting in on an angle for a shot, you've got to try and cover both sides, and you can't cover the far post unless you stand like a bit further over, which leaves gaps. And like the goalkeeper's never happy to let a goal in. So when people say, "Well, he won't be happy being beaten at his near post," we wouldn't be happy if the striker bent it in the far top corner either. So like, it's kind of
it's that one, isn't it, where you see stuff, don't you? And like, I don't know, a lad will cut in from the left and cut in on his right, and then you as a keeper have to step across more to the middle, and he hits it back across you, so going the opposite way. Everyone's like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, like, how's he conceded that?" But it's like, what are you meant to do?
Say, like, the fullback who's let the striker cut in on his right foot, no one will say, "Oh, you should be doing better." It's all on the goalkeeper.
Yeah, and it's like, what are you meant to do? Just stand on your post and then just kind of let them go into the other corner and be like, "Well,
exactly.
at least they can go front post."
I know.
Yeah, I think I've seen recently, like, is it Robert Green's been on like Sky Sports? I know like Gary Neville and Carragher like hate like anything to do goalkeepers. There's a big one now in terms of like Gary Neville hates punching, but it's like there must be a reason every like top goalkeeper
everyone does
Premier League punches. Yeah. I understand what you mean.
With the balls that they use, like they're not goalkeeper friendly at all. Like they move all over the place.
Okay,
they're not easy to catch. So the easiest thing to do is just bang it away. I don't really like. Oh, fair enough. If you've got a free, like I don't like seeing when goalkeepers come for a cross and they sort of punch it with both hands. Because I think if you can get both hands onto the fist to punch it, you can catch it. But if you only punch it with one hand over bodies, it's the safest. Because if they went to catch it and they dropped it, they'd hammer him for trying to catch it and being like clever. And if they punch it, they're still hammering him, so they can't win.
I think it was Dean Henderson last night. I almost fell asleep watching the United game last night. But
he dropped one. He punched it.
He's done a couple, hasn't he, where he's like gone up in bodies, gone to catch it, and then he's fumbled it, but luckily he's like landed on it or whatever. But like you could look, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, I suppose, aren't you? It's, I suppose the further you go back in a position, like I'll look at it from a centre half point of view, like you make a mistake, there's a good chance there's going to be a goal, isn't there? Striker misses a one-on-one. Oh, everyone forgets about that after 90 minutes, don't they? Or centre mid gives the ball away in midfield or whatever, or winger. It's kind of like the further you go back towards your own goal, it's risk, isn't it? And a keeper, you've got no one behind you, so it's kind of
like if you were drawing and then a striker misses an open goal last minute and you still draw, then it's kind of forgotten about. But if you're drawing and the keeper drops one in last minute, and you lose because of that, it's like a massive thing, isn't it?
So obviously, you played goalkeeper. Did you enjoy that side of it then? The risk and reward almost.
I did love playing goal. Yeah.
So what did you love about being a goalie then? Except for kind of giving people
the pressure
behind the goal.
The pressure position, because I think like it's a position that you need to be constantly switched on with, like organising. I love organising. I love talking, like sort of talking my way through games and talking like lads and playing through games. Like I'll always try and sort of like say if there's a pass on, I'll say the right back's got the ball. I'll say obviously switch it, or I'll say what options I think he's got on. He's probably thinking what you're talking about. But obviously the banter side of it, like fans behind the goal, like I loved all that, getting involved with them, like winding them up, like and trying to, obviously they were trying to wind me up. Being a bit of a hero as well.
I was going to say, have you got any stories like what fans were like the worst?
Anytime we banger, or like all the time. Like I remember the first time we played Rill in the cup first game we played Rill when we were in the Welsh Prem, and they had all the flags standing over, and like one of the flags fell on the floor, and then the ball went over to it, and I like just stood on the flag, like immature, I know, and like just rubbed my boot on the flag to like get it all filthy. I never got mad, but like it was so easy to wind up. Like Bangor fans as well, very easy, very inbred, so like very easy to wind up. But good laugh, like as long as it doesn't go too far, sort of thing. Like Johnny, I've had some like that. fans spit at me before the ball goes over and you're waiting for the ball to come back, and like they'll spit in your face or try and spit in your face, or like say things like your parents and things like that. Like I'm not on board for that, but like if you want to have a bit of banter and try and sort of like have a laugh, then I'll do that all day.
It's a fine line, isn't it? Especially in football. I think say what you want within reason, obviously.
Yeah.
But then I find like things like spitting and things like that's just like no, in it, like nah, that's just come on. It's a game of football at the end of the day, isn't it?
Right. But like when I was at Prestatyn, a few times my dad used to steward if they were short, and he'd always try. I didn't like it, but he'd always stand behind my goal, sort of thing, because obviously he'd want to watch as well. And like when you play bang a few times, like it'd say things about your family, like your mum, your sister, your dad, like one time it was like saying, "Oh, I hope your dad dies of cancer" and stuff like that. And I'm just like, and like I can hear it, and it's water off my back. So it's only words, but like my dad is like he's hearing things like this being said to his son, and he's kind of got to stand there because he's acting as a steward. So after hearing that, I don't think he did it again. He was just kind of he'd always stand the other side or like not do it.
Yeah, obviously that's just it's the dog coming, has it?
Yeah.
Oh no. So hello. I'll record this and put it on Instagram later for you. All right, mate. So obviously going back to kind of Prestatyn, you've just got into Cumbria Alliance. You've won that, haven't you? With Gibbo as manager there, was it? Yeah. So you just got into So you just got back into the Welsh Prem. Still full of local lads, is it those lads that are in the 4th division, or have you had to bring in more kind of experienced lads?
No, so all the way through, he stayed with all the local lads. Lads who were lads from Rill and Prestatyn but played elsewhere. They decided to come to like. There's still a few lads that stayed at Rill because they were on the cusp of the first team. Like Dave Hayes, a couple of lads. Mike Parker was still at Rill at the time, and he came a season or so after. Called Jack Lewis as well, who played left back, and so they joined over the sort of like as we got up into the better leagues. And the first year in the Welsh Prem, it was all local lads. Gibbo said that if you get promoted, I'll stick with everyone, whether we come back down or not. But you've all deserved to go through the leagues, and you'll have at least one season to say that you'll get a chance to play in the Welsh Prem. Because like when I was growing up, I used to go and watch Rill when I was younger, and I'd always just like chatting to your mates, just like, oh, it'd be nice just to play like in the highest league in your country, sort of thing, to say that you've done that. And so I never thought I'd be able to get the opportunity to do that, really. And I probably wouldn't have if it wouldn't have been at Prestatyn, because I don't really think anyone would have given me a chance to play that as a young goalkeeper anyway, because people don't really take risks with young goalkeepers today. They stick to sort of experience because it is a key position. So yeah, the first year we stayed up quite comfortably, really. But the first year that we were there, you had to finish. It was the first season they dropped the league from, I think it was 18 teams, 16 teams to 12. So you had to finish in the top 10 to guarantee not getting relegated. It was the first year they changed it to 12 teams, like a top 6 and a bottom 6. So it was the first year so it's kind of like, here's your first year, but if you want to stay up, you've got to finish 9th, really, or 9th or 10th, because so many teams got relegated and then 2 more teams came up. And I think we did it with like 4 games to go. And like, it was an unbelievable feeling. But then that was when Gibbo started looking at it and go, right, well, this is as far as we could go as a sort of group of local lads. And then he signed a few lads from elsewhere, like a couple of lads from Manchester, a couple of lads from like Mid Wales, from Wrexham way. And then gradually then, but we needed it. That was only so far we could have gone. Otherwise, year after, we'd have got battered and got relegated.
What was the step up like then? Obviously, it's a little bit different maybe as a goalie, isn't it? Because I suppose it's just
players, really. And like, well, at a time when we got promoted, you had Llanelli were a very good side, TNS were very good, Rill were very good, Bangor were very. You had 5 or 6 really good sides. Neath were there. Yeah, Neath got promoted. That was when they were spending a good bit of money. So it was a really tough league. Come on, like every team was like Halford West. A lot of teams were spending a lot of money, so we were kind of the whipping boys, sort of thing, because we were still not getting paid the first year because the club had no money. So it was kind of
still playing Welsh Prem and no one's getting paid.
No.
Okay.
Not the first year anyway. Second year we did. But
Yeah.
so that was it was a great achievement to stay up. But yeah, it was a great league. Like players like Andy Legg, Jason Bowen playing for Llanelli, like unbelievable players. Andrew Mumford, and then they had a couple of Spanish lads as well from Llanelli were very good. They got a few, TNS, obviously they've always been very good. But when that first few years, like they're like players like John Lear playing for them. Like up front called Toner, like got a few batterings off them, like 6-7 nils. Bad days. But yeah, it was a very good league.
Yeah, I was going to say step up from like Cumbria. Obviously I don't know what it was back then, but Cumbria North and South, wasn't it? So big step up in terms of kind of quality into the Welsh Prem. What was after that first year then? When you finished 10th, was it, or 9th in the end?
9th or 10th, off the top of my head, I can't quite remember, but we stayed. We had to 10th minimum to stay up. Yeah, and I think we were 9th. I think.
What happened that then? Because you were saying like Gibbo, or you kind of all knew that was as far as you could go from like 4th division, mid-table-ish in Welsh Prem. What happened then? So new summer, loads of lads came on.
Brought in 4 lads from. So we brought in Ross Stevens, Gaz Wilson, Steve Rogers, and Paul O'Neill, who played for Real. So we signed those 4 lads, and it's kind of like Paul O'Neill was centre back, Gaz was centre mid. Steve Rogers was a striker, so kind of rebuilt the spine.
Yeah.
Ross Stevens played midfield as well, so kind of rebuilt the spine and helped them, and obviously just put the rest of the lads elsewhere, and like that improved the strength. I think we stayed up again that year. We got into the top 6. So the first half of the split we finished 6th, and then we got into the playoffs. We got to the European playoff the second season. We lost in the final to Neath. So it's kind of like within, if we'd have won that, it'd kind of gone in 6 years, gone from park football, sort of like maybe getting into Europe. And that's kind of like when a lot of it changed for a lot of lads, like started to take it a lot more serious and look after themselves. Because at the time when I first got in the Prem, lads didn't really look after themselves. Like it was a semi-pro league, but the players weren't semi-pro, if you get what I mean. Sort of treat, a lot did. Johnny got players like Chris Vanderbilt, who's been in the league for years, who's treats and he acts like a professional sort of like athlete, and there's a lot of other lads do. But at that time, it was kind of like an old boys league. So like lads who'd played league football up to like early 30s and then just came to the Welsh Prem for a couple of seasons to get a last bit of money. Because when now you can see they're all lads, they all look after themselves. They've all got, most of the clubs will probably have fitness coaches, strength conditioning and things like that.
Do you feel like nowadays, do you think it has changed? Because obviously they talk about kind of even, I don't know, like professional, like, Premier League, obviously getting fitter, faster, all that stuff, like even lower down the leagues. Do you think even like non-league or like Welsh leagues and things like that, even like lads playing at our level or even in the Welsh Prem, take it a lot, it's getting better and getting a lot more professional than what it was, I don't know, say 10 years ago, where maybe lads would be on the piss or something after a game, or that would still happen, don't get me wrong, but you prepare better.
I think fitness itself has taken a massive change the last sort of 5-6 years, hasn't it? Like a lot more people are sort of like yourselves, like a lot more people are deciding to become PTs and things like that and got an interest in it. A lot more lads are putting time into becoming fitter and stronger, and there's maybe that vanity side of it as well, that they want to look better. Just better for football, but they want to look decent on Instagram and then when they're in Marbella and stuff. So like I definitely think that, and obviously coaches are improving. They've brought in all the licenses, haven't they, to say that all coaches now have got to be A license minimum or B license and managers and things like that. And obviously with that comes the professionalism that they want, because like they're kind of think, well, if I'm putting the effort into becoming an A license manager, I want players who are going to be able to work with that and at fitness levels. And also football's changed a lot, hasn't it? People, like teams want to try and press a bit more. You can't do that if you're not fit.
Yeah.
And like things like over lockdown, especially, I think the last year, lads have like obviously the 5Ks that people have been trying to like do their times of, like whether some of them how genuine or not they are. Like some
I was going to say the fake 5Ks. Yeah, you don't see as much of them anymore, though. To be honest, I think everyone's got a bit. I think, especially our league, we'll talk about that later, won't we? But I think everyone got a bit fed up with it by the end of it. But talk to me about kind of, we have to talk about, I know we said, I won't, you always talk about this, don't you, Cam? the Welsh Cup final and things like that. So we will talk about it a little bit. We won't stay too long on it because obviously it's a massive achievement, isn't it? So we'll talk about it.
Yeah, it's a good.
Tell me about kind of that season then. So what year was that in terms of you being
So that
first
was
year?
that was 2012-13 season. So I think that would have been our 4th year in the Premier that we'd won the Welsh Cup.
So you've been building obviously from that first year, staying in the Welsh Prem. Second year, sign a few more lads.
Yeah.
Third year, is this your kind of build on top of it every year?
For the first year, we signed those 4 that I said earlier. Then the next year, we'd have signed a couple more, and then until the point where it was kind of like split down the middle with lads who were local and been on the journey, and then lads who had come in from other teams within the league or players that Gibbo played with when he was young. When he was a player, he played for Tranmere and played Wales 21s. So he'd known a lot of people over the years. So I called him a few favours. So the year that we won the Welsh Cup, we signed Jason Price, who played for Doncaster.
For Wales, didn't he?
Never played for Wales. It's one of his bugbears. He never got a cap.
I'll clip that bit out then.
But yeah, he played for Doncaster. He played for Bradford. I think he played for Swansea, Millwall, and we signed Andy Parkinson as well. He played a lot of games at Tranmere, been around, played the league as well. Played 400 or 500 league games, and those two that season kind of just got us up to that next level massively. Like Parky was unbelievable from the start. And so was Pricey, and it got sort of 30 goals between them, and that's kind of at Prestine. We had Lee Hunt prior to that, who'd score the goals, but we'd only ever have one person who'd score goals, and the rest everyone would chip in. As well, that year, we had Parky and Pricey scoring goals, and like Mike Parker also scored goals, Gibbo scored goals, so the goals were getting spread out a lot more between the teams, who wasn't as reliant on one person to score the goals. So we'd had a full run up to it because we got top 6 again that season. But obviously, when you're in the top 6, you're playing against 5 of the best teams. So you kind of, we'd always get the top 6 and then tail off because maybe only win 1 or 2 games out the rest of the season. And that's exactly what we did that year. I think at the remaining 10 games we played, we only won 1. We lost 8, drew 1 and won 1. So we were on a bit of a bad run, but we were doing well in the Cup. So in the lead up to the Cup, Steve Gibbo said we're going to do it all professional. So we stayed in a hotel in Wrexham the night before. We trained at Wrexham's ground the day before and went through things. So it's kind of like treating it as a cup final as it was, but as a cup final that you'd see on Wembley sort of thing, where the teams playing and travelling down all together. And it was good. It was good to be together. We had a quiz the night before, and it sort of added to it a little bit more. And then obviously on the day.
I was going to say, what was the build-up like to it then, kind of in the games leading up to it?
It was quite nervy, really, because obviously we beat Barry in the semi-final about maybe a month before, but we were still doing quite poor in the league. So kind of like no one really felt safe in the team sort of thing, do you know what I mean? Because like normally if you've got a cup final coming up and you're playing well and you're in the team, you kind of think, oh, that's my spot in the team sorted. But because we weren't playing well, everyone was kind of like, I was playing awful. It was probably one of my worst seasons overall that year. And no one kind of felt safe in the team sort of thing that I was speaking to anyway. So I roomed with like Chris Davis the night before, and we were kind of chatting like and sort of like, don't know who's going to play sort of thing and don't know what team, because like Gibbo mixes things up quite often.
Yeah.
You kind of never knew whether to read him or not. But obviously, on the day, and again, Prestine Bangors, it was a local derby sort of thing because we played a lot because obviously you play each other 4 times in the current system in the Premier, don't you? So it kind of, we always had good games, like high scoring games, like 3-3s, 4-3s, 3-2s and things like that. So it was kind of anticipated to be a good game. But we also knew that Bangor would take a lot of fans, and Prestine's a well supported club, but don't have a lot of fans. You know, I mean, the fans they've got are brilliant, but there's not many of them compared to Bangor. So we were kind of like, weren't too sure what to expect. And when we walked out for the warm-up, we just sort of looked over, and it was literally like half the town was there. It was unbelievable. And it's kind of like give all the lads a massive boost. And obviously the game, as it happened, we won. And it was just unbelievable, like to sit there with like your friends that you've been on this journey from playing like in like playing against like Llanfair PG, Guelph, my teams on Anglesey like over 5-6 years ago, where some games turn up and the change rooms are locked and you stood there waiting for you to be opened, or the showers aren't working, and then we've gone through all that journey to then qualifying for the Europa League qualifiers. It was just unbelievable. And then to obviously do that with all your friends, basically, because we were all friends. Like we'd all go out after games. We'd all go to like organised nights out for everyone's birthdays, Christmas dues, and season dues were all brilliant. And because at the time, Prestatyn was a really busy town for a night out, so there was a lot of pubs. So straight after, if you have a game on a Friday night, we had a lot of Friday night games. So you'd always be sort of straight to game, straight to change room, straight out, and then obviously meet back up on the Saturday to go watch a game in the pub or something, or the horses and things like that, and go to races, and it was just really good times.
I was going to say, I bet you got a few free drinks that night, didn't you, after the Welsh Cup?
Yeah, so one of them, there's a bar in Prestatyn called 236 that sponsors the club. Yeah. So after the final, we all went back to the clubhouse, all the fans were there, things like that, and then we went down to 236, and Dave, who owns the bar, like, to be fair to me, he took a penny off anyone, sort of just help yourself. So yeah, it was good. It was good times. And then obviously straight away, 2 months later, we were sort of travelling over Europe, playing we played in Latvia in the first leg, in the first round, and then somehow managed to beat them on penalties, and then we drew a Croatian team.
Tell me about that. Tell me about that in a second. Tell me a bit more about the cup final. So, by the sounds of it, you like Bangor. So, was it a bit more special to play against Bangor?
Yeah, definitely. It was a bit more special to be at Bangor. I would go on my phone straight after the game, and like literally my DMs on like Facebook and Twitter were just Bangor fans calling me all sorts.
Yeah.
Made it even a bit sweet. And obviously, getting man of the match was obviously a bit of a bonus.
Yeah, tell me about the game then. So, did you obviously when you saw the fans felt a bit more kind of up for it? Not up for it, but you know what I mean. Like, you see that many people set the sport in you. It's going to give you a kick up the arse. What was it like during the game? Was it close or? I
actually thought we played well during the game, but then when I watched it back a few days later, we got absolutely battered. I don't think we got out of our half for the first, other than when we scored, I don't think we got out of our half for the first hour.
Yeah.
They were all over us, and we were just clinging on. And then they equalised just like late on in the game, obviously took it to extra time.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? When you get like two sets of players come off the pitch at the end of the game, say if you know one on the other side, like, oh yeah, we battered you then. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
It's a couple of their lads after the game, and like sort of like we won 3-1, and like obviously the scoreline makes it sound comfortable, but it wasn't. And I was kind of thinking, like, I think we've done well there. And like they were like, oh, you bastards, this and that. And then they were just like, oh, we've battered you. And I was like, turn it in, like no chance. And then the week after, and I was just like, no, we actually did get battered. Not so much just like in chances, just like in the ball. We hardly had any of the ball, and it was such a hot day. And like Wrexham's pitch is massive. It's like fair play to the lads. They put an absolute shift in that day.
I was going to say, it's all right. You're a goalkeeper. The box doesn't change size, does it?
Lovely tan.
I was going to say, all right, mate, Sam. So I know you made that kind of like famous save, didn't you, kind of in the Welsh Cup as well? But would that say your biggest achievement in terms of winning that Welsh Cup?
Yeah, definitely. That's the biggest achievement. Proudest moment would be probably playing in Europe, because like that's just something that you never expect to do, and sort of like nice thing to say you've done, but like obviously achievement like winning the Welsh Cup, it's like it's got a massive history, and especially for the first time a club like Prestatyn had won it. To say that being a part of that is it's very proud.
Yeah, winning with your mates as well. So tell me about Europe. So that'll be interesting for people that don't know. I always speak to people who aren't maybe from near Wales, or they don't really understand that kind of like what you can get in the Champions League. It's like, or you get in the Europa League and all this. And it's like, so tell me a bit about kind of that journey. Kind of obviously it's early, kind of in pre-season almost, isn't it? Because the early qualifiers, I imagine.
I think it was early July. So luckily, lads had already booked holidays early. So like. So said I missed it as well. One of the lads couldn't come to the away leg in Croatia because he couldn't get a time of work. Yeah. And like you think that your boss would be quite lenient. So I got a day off. When the draw was made, we drew a team called Lapaya in Latvia. So like buzzing, no one had been to Latvia before, and we kind of just put it as a jolly sort of thing. Oh, he's there, we'll get through. Well, no, we'll get battered probably, because Welsh teams very rarely do well in Europe. We played at home first, so we lost 2-1, and they weren't actually that good. But on the day, I just think that things didn't click for us. We had a couple of lads with injuries, and we actually felt we could like do something in the away leg. So we went to the away leg, absolute camel ride, because the club put everything the cheapest. Like we flew from Luton, so we had to drive down to Luton the day before, stay in a hotel, early flight to, was it Latvia we flew into? No, we flew into Slovenia or somewhere like that. No, sorry, I'll restart. We flew into Latvia that time.
Okay.
And the hotel we stayed in was like awful. It's literally like gone back to like 1950s. No aircon, roasting hot, couldn't open the windows. It was just a nightmare. The hotel was awful. So we played the game, we won 2-1, and then we won on penalties. So then we went a night out after, obviously, chairman's buzzing, so chairman's just throwing all sorts of things going right. So we're like, right, so what's the kitty, what beer card we got? So we just turned around, and I was the first one to see him when he came out of his room. Obviously, he's buzzing because I think you get 200 odd grand for qualifying, and then you get another 200 grand for going through a round. So he was just like, 200 grand in the bank for the club. Here you go, just give me a wad of cash. I'm just like, there you go, just spend that and come back to me when more's gone, when it's all gone. I was like, right, come on. So we all went to the nearest pub, full of fans from the team we've just beaten. So like, automatically you just think, like, even the bounce on door, just like, listen, lads, you can't be playing up. I know obviously what's happened, like broken English, as you can imagine, but they realised who we were. And they were sound, to be fair. It was like a weird grungy rock band playing. It was like something out of, you've seen the film, what's the film? The Vampires. Can't think off the top of my head, but it was a really weird setup. And so basically I was at the bar, I was like, listen, I put all this money on the table, all the euros, and I was like, can you just keep pouring us drinks? It was only a small bar. So while they obviously want the money off us, so all these bar staff are pouring these drinks. No one else can get served because they must be pouring 30 or 40 drinks. Great, because my dad made the trip as well, and like I've never been away with my dad really. So my dad came over, come on the trip. So I had a good night out with him as well. Although my head was on a spin, making sure he was like all right. Felt like I was babysitting him. But yeah, it was good. So we wake up in the morning, like 9 o'clock, bus leave. Like lads are running around the hotel trying to wake everyone up, and we drove to a different airport than the one we flew on. So like, bus was minging, and then we had to then drive back from Luton. So it was not.
I was going to say, you think the chairman would have like pulled out all the stops after winning that round? Like,
obviously that cuts into the profit margin, doesn't it? So we got us there the cheapest possible way.
Oh, of course, yeah. Can't get around that.
You don't get the money straight up front either. You get it like at the middle towards the end of the season. So the Welsh FA borrow you the money to sort of like pay for the trip, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So obviously they sorted the trip out. So then we'd won. The next day the draw was made, and we were playing a team in Croatia. So we landed back from Latvia on the Friday, and we were playing in Croatia on the Thursday after. It's like, granted, we're all semi-pro, like part-time, wouldn't even say it was semi-pro really, like train twice a week normally. So then lads are coming back, like my boss rang me straight after the game to say, like, oh, well done, this and that. And I was just like, oh, listen, I'm going to need next week off. And like my boss was great, but like I said earlier on, lads, Jack, his boss was just like, no, we can't give you the time off. So he missed the game in Croatia.
It's mad, isn't it? Like,
and like this team in Croatia we played, they just bought a striker for €1 million. Like the stadium was unbelievable. It was a team called Rijeka in Croatia, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like lovely stadium, like right on the sea. And that was an experience. There was like 8,000 fans of that game, like ultras. You know, like when you see like European ultras, like the flares and like the hanging off the stadium and stuff like that. It was bonkers.
I think, you know, in like, so that's the second qualifying round, is it, the Europa League? Of what would now be the Europa League. Was it the Europa League back then as well? Okay. Yeah. I don't think so. You know, like when you're watching United or whatever, and you're giving someone like Rashford a load of not shit, or you know, someone's given. I don't think that, and then they play against, I don't know, some team from Bulgaria, and you think, oh, they'll batter them. But you don't realise kind of the actual level of those kind of players still playing for those lower clubs, do you? And the budgets, like you said, that Croatian team. They probably got knocked. I don't know. You can tell me whether they got knocked out in the next round.
They beat Wolves
Okay.
that year.
Shut me up now. But yeah.
I was just about to say, they got into the group stage and they beat Wolfsburg, and I was kind of just like watching them going like, it's absolutely mad that we played against these.
Yeah, but I don't think people understand, do they? Kind of like the
No.
difference in terms, especially if like a Welsh club gets in and you're playing against a team from Latvia or whether it's Croatia, like the difference in budget, it's not just budgets, but everything, isn't it? It's like, and then the next step from then is then like, you talk about Wolfsburg and things like that. And, you know, it's just next step, isn't it? Every time you don't realise how big it is.
They had like the striker called Leon Benko, who was unbelievable, and he'd just been capped by Croatia at the time when Modric was like Croatia were decent. He just got into the Croatian team. He scored a hat trick in like 12 minutes against us in the away leg. We did all right. We had 5-0 in the away leg and 4-0 in the home legs. Like, I don't think 9-0 was that bad considering whether they took the foot off. I don't know. To be fair, when the away leg, they didn't send a lot of lads. They also give it a squad. Give a few lads in the squad the game off, but they were unreal.
What was that like then, playing in that stadium?
Well, I came on for the last 5 minutes because I didn't play. So I came on the last 5 minutes and I played the second leg. But yeah, even that was great.
Yeah.
Like, great experience. It's just like I've never been a professional footballer, but so for that 2 weeks of going to Latvia and Croatia, kind of got the feeling of what it's like to live like a professional, something like flying around, living in hotels, training in the day, training at the ground the night before the game and stuff like that. Like being involved in press conferences, like that genuine fans then, like that genuinely want to like kill you because they think you play because you're playing against their team. But again, we went a night out in Croatia after, and like unbelievable. The city we stayed in, Rijeka, is a lovely city, and they had a nightclub that was like right on the beach. We walked in, and like one of the fellas who worked there recognised one of the lads who played and was like, "Oh, I was at the game today. I'll get you a little table." So we got a table for free. So like we just sat there, like all the free drink, and I thought he's like, "Oh," and we were explaining to like, "Oh, we're only part time," because they thought we were full time, because they thought we were crap compared to them. But they were just like, "Oh, I couldn't believe how crap you were." And we were like, "Oh, we're only part time." One of our lads couldn't even come because he couldn't get the time of work, and they were just like, "What?" And we was like, "Oh yeah, we train twice a week. We're only a part time team," and they couldn't get their head around it.
Yeah, so they sort you out that night.
Yeah, so we sorted this out, and he was just like, "Oh, if you need anything, give us a shout." And he just kept bringing bottles of vodka over and things like that. It was great.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when you get Welsh clubs in, it's a bit different now, isn't it? Well, it's still not that much different, but Welsh clubs getting into Europa League, Champions League, like when you play against these kind of random teams that probably 99% of people haven't heard of, like in Croatia or Bulgaria or whatever, still the difference is massive, isn't it? Like,
yeah, of course.
But even to get there is an achievement in itself, isn't it? So you got to play in the second leg, didn't you?
So I played in the home leg. So yeah, so I played. So I started the second leg, and I did all right. To be fair, I think I did all right.
So you can say you played Europa League now.
Yeah, I can say that I'm a Europa League veteran.
So talk to me about after that then. So you're out Europa League.
So we got out, and then we started the season really well that year.
Yeah.
I think that's because we were weeks ahead of everyone. We I think we were top after 4 games. We beat Bala, beat TNS, and we beat someone else in the first 3 games. We'd won 3, so we kind of think, all right, we're on to something here.
Yeah.
And then it got to like November time, and everyone just like lost everything. Like, we went on a really bad run, and we ended up dropping into the bottom 6. And I just think the whole after effect of Europe, I think it kind of hit us then because we only had a small squad.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think because we basically didn't have, because we'd finished the season in Europe, so lads didn't have any break because everyone wanted to keep fit, and they were in early for pre-season anyway. So kind of like lads had an 18-month season, if you think of it that way.
Yeah, it just kind of blew up.
Yeah, so it got to like November time, and everyone just crashed. Like no one had anything left in them, and we went on a really bad run. And then we ended up finishing in the bottom 2 that season, but staying up because one of the teams getting promoted didn't have a license, so it kind of got away with one.
Yeah.
And
so were you playing that season?
No, so I didn't play. So I'd fell out of the team, sort of fell out of favour, and so I think I played a handful of games. But again, because I'd got myself fit to play in Europa League, and I kind of I played, but I kind of wasn't first choice. I was kind of sort of lost interest a bit, so I wasn't looking after myself. I put on weight, lost the fitness that I'd gained in the summer. So the games that I did play, I wasn't doing myself any justice because I wasn't looking after myself. And that was kind of the start and the end for me there. So then that season I left at the end of the season. So I was kind of just like, I need to sort of have something fresh to sort of give me a kick up the backside. And I just think that the relationships I had there with Gibbo and the coaching staff, I think it would have got to a breaking point because I was obviously annoying him, but he wasn't saying anything to me. Yeah. To the point where they've got become an argument, and then I think that it ended up becoming worse, and that's not what I wanted to happen. So I decided to leave then after 10 years of being there.
How old were you then when you left? So were you like 28?
28, 29, yeah. If that, yeah, 28, 29.
Okay, so do you still feel like you had like plenty left in you?
Definitely, yeah. And I think I heard rumours that they were trying to sign keepers throughout the summer, and I was kind of like, they're nowhere near better than me or even as good as me. So I just think they were looking to get someone in. But when I was asking questions, I wasn't being told the truth. And I was like, I knew that they were, because one of my mates was at Wrexham, and he told me that Prestatyn were trying to sign a young keeper on loan. So when I asked Gibbo, he kind of said, oh, no, we're not. So I kind of knew that they were trying to replace me. Yeah. So I just decided to leave in the end. And Eddie Morris-Jones, who I was friends with, took the Gresford job. This was 2014, 15-ish. So then I was kind of like, a couple of weeks before the season, I decided to leave. And I'd already turned down a few offers from clubs. Like Llandudno wanted me to go there. And I turned them down to stay. And by that point, everyone's kind of set with their keepers, so I kind of had to drop down 2 leagues. I also wanted to go somewhere I knew I was going to play. I didn't want to go there and get to know a new changing room when I didn't really plan to be there for long. But when Eddie got a job at Gresford, a lot of my mates signed there, and I thought, well, I'll go for a year, I'll play, get fitter again, and then I'll just see what happens. And I loved it. Yeah. It was a great club, Gresford. And we won the league, so that was the Welsh National, so that's tier 3, what you'd call now. Yeah. 1 league below our league. And we won that league and got promoted to the Cymru Alliance as well. And then we did really well. And sort of like, that was the start of Eddie's management journey as well. So it was good to sort of start it all off together.
Have you, I was going to ask you, I don't know the answer to this, but have you ever had like interest from teams in England? You always play in Wales, haven't you? So
yeah, no, I've never had never interest for any teams in England. That's one thing. If I was to look back at my career and have any regret, it would be not, because obviously you look at the FA Cup and you see some of the runs that like some non-league teams got. You look at Marine this year, end up playing against Spurs. Yeah. And like there's lads in that team who played in the Welsh Prem a couple of years ago, and it's kind of just like, that's one regret I would have had, is like I'd have liked to maybe have had a couple of years playing in England for a team that may have been able to get a decent draw in the FA Cup. I mean, it wouldn't be a regret like I want to change it, but it's something that I'd have liked to have done.
What level do you reckon you could have played at in England then? Because
I don't know.
It's hard to compare, isn't it, at times? Because you get lads playing. Obviously, you see lads now, don't you, from the Welsh Prem going into the Football League. But then you'll see lads maybe just playing around, maybe top of conference or top more national leagues now and things like that. But then you see it's a complete mixed bag, isn't it?
Yeah, like I think everyone's plays at their level because, let's say for instance, players at our level are good players, but they're at that level because they haven't got that consistency. Yeah. So say you're a 6 or a 7 out of 10 every week, and every now and again you'll put in an 8 or a 9 out of 10. But to step up a level, you need to be a 7 or 8 out of 10 every week, and so on and so on. And that's the consistency and the fitness and desire and everything like that. So I think on my day, I think I could probably have, if say for instance, maybe a conference game, but like I watch some conference teams sometimes, I just think, God, it's awful. Some of it is awful. And like, do you know what I mean? It's still a good level. Like you look at what Wrexham are playing now, and that's not saying they're not good players. But I think on a one-off game, I probably could have done a job at but overall, I don't think I'm at that level. Maybe a lower Conference North team, maybe, but I've never watched a Conference North game other than if a Conference North team is on the telly in an FA Cup game or something like that. So, but seeing players that like have played at that level and that I've played against in the Welsh Prem, and I thought, well, they're an all right player. I could probably have done a job. But again, I don't know. And again, I don't know what league is below the Conference North, because I think Conference North would probably be around the top end, maybe, of Welsh Prem. I think, like for instance, TNS Connah's Quay, I think they do really well in the Conference North, probably, wouldn't they?
Yeah. So obviously, Conference North, you've got teams like Chester in there,
Mm-hmm.
and other kind of teams near here. But I think you're right. Like every level you go up, it's consistency, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, and that's effectively all it is, isn't it? Like if you're a 7 or 8 out of 10 every week for 30 games a season, you'll play at a good level.
Yeah,
because the basics are good, the rest of it will look after itself.
That's why you'll see like shocks, won't you? Because one game you can have lads maybe beat teams in the league above, but if that team went into the league above and played 38 games, they get found out, wouldn't they? Because like you're not good.
Sometimes the best club will not always win a cup. So like you'll get the odd team that wins the FA Cup or Champions League that isn't the best team, because being able to raise it for one game every couple of months is easier than doing it over a 38 game season, isn't it? Like the best team always wins the league, but the best team doesn't always win the cup.
Yeah. So talk to me about kind of leaving Preston and things like that. I was going to bring this up, so you can tell me whether you want to talk about it or not. But you've probably been told in the past that, oh, he's a good keeper for, I think I've heard you say, like to me, like a good keeper for a decent size or for a big size. Has that annoyed you in the past? Or is it more just kind of...
At the time, no, it didn't. But I think looking back now, it like I said, I was interviewed last week. It's just been nice, just like, and like you see it now, like well, Peter Crouch, for instance, people say, oh, he's got a great touch for a big man. Well, just say he's got a great touch. Don't have to say, or like say, like if people want to give me a compliment, don't say he's a great keeper for, or like lad. Gets down well for a big lad sort of thing. Just say he gets down well sort of thing. Like it's I've never understood it, but I suppose it's just it's something that has gone with me all the way through. And it's just something people say, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you've had a class career, haven't you? So you kind of prove people wrong in that way, haven't you? But do you reckon that ever held you back in terms of going on further? Or
yeah, I think so. I regret that probably didn't meet you sooner and got me like my head screwed on with like fitness and eating well and stuff like that. If I'd done that sooner, I'd probably played at a high level for longer. But I wouldn't change anything, because the people I've met through dropping out of playing in the Welsh Prem, like being at Gresford, I signed for Denby as well. I went back to Real. Like the people I've met and the friends I've got has come from making those decisions. So I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah,
it's like I met my missus on a stag do. One of the lads I played footy with, and if I wouldn't have signed for that team and met him, I may not have met my missus. Sort of things. Like I don't think you can have those sort of like decisions you make at the time. I don't want to sound like a cliche, but like I don't really have regrets. It's just decisions you make at the time, isn't it? But yeah, I think if I definitely looked after myself better, maybe more opportunities would have come, because I wouldn't have had that stigma of like, when people look at me playing goal, sometimes may have thought, geez, he's not a keeper. And then after watching me play for a little bit, like, oh, he's actually all right. But they've still got that stigma in the back of the mind, like, oh, he's still a big lad.
I suppose, like for you, you never really had coaching as a keeper, did you? So you're completely self-taught. So you have like obviously it didn't affect you in that didn't affect you in a way, did it? You've had a class career, you won Welsh Cups, played Welsh Prem, played good standards, played Europa League. But do you reckon, even going away from like kind of like that, if you had maybe a coach when you were younger, do you reckon that would have changed like kind of your career? Or because you weren't in like academies or anything like that, were you?
No, because you have more positions specific training, don't you? Like whenever I did a pre-season, I was just thrown in with the outfield players, gone, right, that's the running you're expected to do, like do all the box to boxes, the 4-minute runs. And like that's not saying just because you're a keeper you don't have to do those, but they're not position specific. Unless I'm coming up for corners, I shouldn't have to be quick doing a box to box run. Do you know what I mean?
No. Try and get out of the running now, are you?
Yeah, trying to get out of the running. But and that's all it was. So being I'd get injured and I'd be like, well, I don't normally do this. So like I've always had sort of like bad calves. Well, over the last few years at Prestatyn, I had bad calves, and it was a running joke. Like once the running starts, I start stretching my calf, and it's purely just because, like I've said to you, I've got a thing about running and getting injured, and because I'm a bigger lad, obviously there's more impact on my muscles. But it's kind of like it's the mental side of it, thinking like, oh, if I do go for a run, I'm going to get injured. Then I'm not going to be in the team, and then things like it's a knock-on effect, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, mate. I think it's one of those where the main thing for you would have been maybe keeper training, wouldn't it? I don't know whether that would have maybe changed the way you probably would have, wouldn't it? Like changed the way you do things, but you've somehow managed to like create this like career of like decent career, just doing everything yourself, haven't you?
Like if you were to look at me playing like from a coaching standpoint, my technique isn't as a goalkeeper isn't what like I'm very unorthodox with the way that like I do things, and that's purely just because it's like I'll make a lot of saves with my feet, the way I catch the ball and things like that isn't what you'd sort of like see from a coached goalkeeper, and that's purely down to just been like winging it.
Yeah, but you've taught yourself, haven't you? Did you ever find like they tried to bring in like you taught, didn't you, anyway, about like saying they bring an academy lad in from Wrexham or things like that? Did you ever feel like because you didn't have that experience behind you of being like, oh, I played for Blackburn under 17s,
like sometimes just like having lads that have got a CV that reads that they've been at club sort of thing, but like just because you've been at a club doesn't mean you've done anything there. Do you know what I mean? You haven't played many games or anything like that. Like I know lads who have played for clubs up till they were 21, 22, but I've never kicked a ball in first team football. But because they've got that club on their CV for the last 3 years, people may think, oh, he's a good player at him, but he's never done anything other than play like in the reserves or 23s and things like that.
You probably get like I think you said before, we all play at a certain level for a reason, don't you? So whether you're an academy person dropping down to like a Welsh team or even in the Welsh Prem coming into a lower league in Wales, it's like you'll play at this level for a reason. Even if you're a guy on your team's never played for a club in his life and you've played for, I don't know, whatever academy, you're both here for a reason, aren't you? So you just had a different kind of journey to it. So tell me a bit about kind of the next steps. So coming to the end of your career now, because obviously you recently retired, haven't you? Like we'll talk about kind of COVID and the Welsh FA maybe a little bit. You can decide what to say on that. But yeah, so you finished your career, kind of went to Gresford, didn't you? Played there for a few years. You move about after that at all, or?
Yeah, so I went to Gresford for 2.5 years, and then Eddie got the Denby job, followed him to Denby, there for 18 months, and he got the Real job, followed him to Real. And then it kind of didn't work out for me at Real. That's where my knee injury started. So I was kind of never really playing fully fit. I was kicking the ball, I was holding it back because I was in pain, couldn't train properly because of my knee and so on. So then I went back to Gresford 18 months ago. Start the season, I just kind of went, and just because I knew I'd be on the bench, but I knew when I got a chance that I'd stay in, and that's what happened. I sat on the bench for a few months and then got in the team. And then we were in quite a bad position at the time. I think we were down there with you, weren't we? We were kind of like picking up points at the same time as each other. And then we got on a bit of a run. And obviously that's when COVID hit originally last March and ended the season.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously that's the last time I kicked the ball not professionally, competitively.
Yeah. So
like the dangle of the carrot since August, haven't we? Of where I've done 3 mini pre-seasons.
Yeah, so for you, it's been like a forced retirement, hasn't it, in a way? Because I assume, even speaking to you would have wanted to play, obviously, last season and this season is I think you always had plans to retire, didn't you, at the end of this year?
Yeah, I was definitely, this was going to be my last one because, especially more so since, like, my knee's been fine, but I've had my sort of date for my operation. Well, I'm on for the next couple of months, so it's kind of like I was going to play this mini season.
Get married next year. Right?
Get married next year. I didn't want to have the operation and then risk injuring my knee again and then have to go through all this again, like once it's done. And because since I've stopped playing football, the pain's been fine. So obviously it's the kicking the ball that, like, because it is quite an explosive movement, isn't it? So that's where the main problem comes. So, and like I've been running recently, I've been like doing this, like the workouts of yourself and things like that. So hopefully I
was going to say, what's next for you then? So you've retired, haven't you?
I'm applying for my badges. So I've just been accepted onto my B licence. So hope that's in June. So hopefully that's the start of sort of a coaching sort of thing now. So I'm just chatting with Eddie and Haggis at Gresford as to see if there's any room for me there and just to go from there. But hopefully I'd like to stay because, like I said earlier, Gresford's a great club. It's a great bunch of lads. Yeah. And it'd be an ideal club and appointment to sort of go in and sort of learn, like, and get my feet sort of under the table to see, like, actually how far I actually want to go with the coaching sort of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say to that. So, are you going in as kind of a coach? Like, it's different, isn't it? Because you've been a goalkeeper. I speak to Amy. You've probably got a decent understanding. Most goalkeepers and even like defenders, when you stood there, you can see the old game, can't you? So you have a better understanding of maybe the game than maybe a striker who's just things like that. So, are you looking to kind of just be like a coach, or go specifically into like goalkeeping coaching?
Yeah, so I just want to be a coach. I've got no interest in goalkeeping really. I think that's getting down to the fact that I've not been coached. So like, I wouldn't, although I can teach someone the basics, I wouldn't know. And I've done sessions that, like, with the last 2 goalkeeper coaches I have had, I've got more of an interest in sort of the game as a whole rather than just setting up circuit for quick feet and serving volleys and things like that. And I also think as a goalkeeper coach, you get like pigeonholed as you're just a goalkeeper coach. Like, on the side, I'd want to have more of an input as to sort of like tactics and team selection and things like that. And I just think if you're a goalkeeper coach, that's just your job. As well, I'd want to be a sort of coach where you've got like a bit of an input into everything.
That's interesting, because I thought if you went in as a goalkeeper coach, you probably have a little bit, and you did all your badges and did like the kind of the book, so to say, like learn the technical model or whatever of like kicking and learn all these drills and blah blah. But you'd have the same as everyone else on that UEFA-B or UEFA Pro license going on in the future. But then you'd also have the other side of it where, the unorthodox, like, I've not been coached, so I know like the other side of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would that not?
I've said that, and I may still do my goalkeeper badges, but more for maybe just to do like one-to-ones with like kids and like young kids and stuff like that. But I don't think I'd have much interest in doing it sort of like at first team level.
Yeah. So what's the kind of, are you looking just to kind of see what happens with Gresford, or see if you enjoy it and then just go from there?
Yes, just see what, like, hopefully we can restart August time. So just give it a season and just see what it's like, just see if I enjoy it. It might not be for me, and I might try and look at a different avenue. I try and stay involved. So I've messaged and chatting to someone from Scorio about maybe trying to get involved with their sort of like English commentary sort of thing. So just sort of like see if there's anything that would like keep me involved. There's different avenues really.
Yeah, definitely, mate. You'll go from giving people shit at the back at the goalposts to now giving people shit on the sidelines.
Perhaps.
All right, mate, that's class. So what I'll do to finish off now, because I've kind of taken up a lot of your bank holiday Monday, we'll do a little bit of a quick fire one. So this one's not too fair, quick fire, this first question, but name for me, I'll get it up here, your best starting 11. So you can put yourself in goal, don't worry.
That I've played with?
Yeah, go on. Starting 11. Not
so,
random, not kind of like Man United players or anything like that. Just, I might not know some of these lads anyway, but...
So probably in goal, Lee Kendall.
Not put yourself in?
No, Ken's was better than me. If I'm going to be honest, like, Ken's was better than me. So Lee Kendall in goal. Right back would be... I think now. Chris Davis, I played with Prestatyn. Centre back would be Paul O'Neill and Nathan Peat. Nathan Peat plays for Ballon. I played him at Gresford. Paul O'Neill played with Prestatyn. Left back, Jack Lewis. We're going to go 4-2-3-1. Centre mid, Mike Parker, Gaz Wilson. Off the right hand side, Steve Holt, Gibbo in the 10. I'm going to go Andy Parkinson off the left, even though he won't want to play there. And then I'm going to go Jason Price as the main striker. It's not far off the team.
I was going to say, Jake will be fuming there.
He can just about make the bench.
So
not far off the team we won the Welsh Cup with, just with a couple of additions.
Yeah, so a few lads will be fuming there. Who's the best player you've actually played with, though? I imagine, or you tell me, but...
Probably Andy Parkinson, as in, he signed for Prestatyn when he was, like, I think 34, 35, but, like, it's just his professionalism. Like, he treated training with us and games like he was still playing Football League, and sort of like what he brought to us as a team. Because then, like, you do training and he'd finish, and he'd still be out doing the extras, like asking to stay out to do extra finishing and extra
even at that age.
And I think that had a knock-on effect for the rest of the squad, because they were just like, well, if he's doing it at that age, then why aren't were you doing it? And
Yeah.
before you knew it, lads were still staying out after training to do extra running and do extra bits and stuff like that, and then asking him like what he wants them to do to make him better, sort of thing, to like, what type of passes, what areas and things like that. So he
Even as a
changed.
even as a goalkeeper, did you learn? Obviously, I imagine you learned quite a bit of what he does like that, like off the pitch,
Yeah.
maybe like the extras. Did you maybe find that him and maybe the other ex-pros that have come from Football League and kind of higher up were completely different in terms of their mindset and kind of professionalism?
Yeah. And it can feel like it also annoyed them because it was like what they're used to. So like if lads that were good players but weren't doing it, or their attitude wasn't right, it pissed them off because they're kind of like, that's not what they're used to, sort of thing. And little things like, if things weren't right, so you turn up to training, so say we trained at 7, but you'd be there at 6:30. If lads are turning up late, it'd be pissing him off. Or if training starts late, it'd be pissing him off because he's used to sort of that regimented thing, and then everyone else came into line, sort of thing, because that's kind of like what is expected.
It all adds up though, doesn't it, I suppose?
Yeah.
Even having anyone that's played higher than you, you learn off them, don't you? Just little things they do. All right, mate, so next one. So you said the best player you've played with. You support United, don't you? Who's your favourite ever player?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ronaldo.
no doubt.
Doesn't really need explaining, does it?
No. And I love the Brazilian Ronaldo as well. I think the pair of them are both brilliant.
I always remember Brazil Ronaldo, Old Trafford, the hat trick.
Yeah, hat trick.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. And especially like, because he was like the player he was, and he was never really fully fit, was he? You only think what he could have done if he'd been able to be like free of injury.
Yeah, I think he had like 3 or 4 kind of like ACL injuries or something like that, didn't he? I remember that Old Trafford game, even being younger, like just him getting clapped off, and like when you realise you're like, oh,
yeah, like never happens.
Yeah, you don't know football when you're younger, but like I just remember thinking, like, oh, he's good. Like you can tell, he's unbelievable. Are you kind of, what do you reckon we United this season, and where we're going to finish? Do you reckon obviously top 4?
We'll finish second. I think we'll finish. I think after winning last night, I'd love Ollie to win a trophy just to sort of like get a bit of pressure off his shoulders. So I think winning the Europa, but I think looking at the teams left in it, we should be sort of aiming for that.
Where do you stand? Where do you stand on Ollie?
I think he's doing a good job.
Yeah,
I think he's progressing year to year. So we third last year, hopefully finish second this year, but he does need to win a trophy. I think that hopefully if we can get Europa won, not that it's a massive trophy, but I just think if you get that first trophy, it's kind of like the monkey off your back, isn't it? It'll give him a little bit less pressure. I also think the pressure shows like in his team selections at times, he's quite safe as well. If he won a trophy, he'd be able to relax a little bit more and let us pick a team that is less safe and maybe play with only one holding midfielder instead of the sort of like Fred and McTominay.
Yeah.
I'm a bit like you. Squad good enough to do it as well. Like, it's easy saying, "Oh, Liverpool when they're fully fit," or City do it, but like their squads are much better.
Yeah, I'm the same as you, really. I'm like at times it frustrates me by playing like Fred and McTominay kind of. But I suppose he probably looks at it similar to Mourinho, where like he probably doesn't trust his back four as much.
No, exactly. So, and you can't have a manager like pre-Christmas who was close to getting the sack, or wasn't he? And then all of a sudden, on a mad run, and they're saying, "Oh, look, your title challengers," and like, so like you can't have that. Like, the thing is with United, everything's so reactive. So like they win, if they haven't played well, it's like, oh, it's not good enough. If they lose, it's not good enough. That like he's the only manager who could be second in the league and still be under pressure, surely. And then you've got like Arteta, who's like 9th. Nothing's ever said about him.
Yeah.
Like Klopp has got stuff in the bank, hasn't he? So like there should be nothing asking for him to be sacked. But he's the only manager who can be second in the league.
But the thing with Klopp, like Klopp lost semis and finals for years, didn't he? And but it was kind of, he had a style. That's the only problem I find with Ollie. I back him and stuff, but I just don't know the way we play. Does that make sense? Like I don't look at us and think,
this is how we play.
Play this. I play this way. It seems like, and it's probably not a bad way, but it seems like we react to
things rather. And then obviously in games, he knows how to set a team up to sort of stop and then play on the counter. He knows how to do that. But like again, breaking down a team that's sit in, he struggles a little bit. But I think when you've got Fred playing centre mid, what more can you expect?
No,
Like,
I know.
I know
He's
we had
all right.
Pogba last night, but like, Pogba was poor last night. But like, Fred is absolutely awful. Like,
Yeah,
he's the only midfielder that's good when you haven't got the. He's good when you haven't got the ball. He's like, he defends well, he rats, he presses. But at the moment he's got the ball, you just like some of the stuff he does. I'm just like, you wouldn't expect to see that in our level. And same with like Wan-Bissaka, great
yeah.
defender, like 1v1. But like, he passed the ball with his heel sometimes, and you're just like, how is that possible?
I think this summer's a big one where
Yeah.
if he doesn't get the right players in this summer and the fans are back next season, I don't think the fans will ever like. You still get fans on social
No, but
media
you
giving
get
us shit,
social media fans, don't you?
but it'll still be if we don't start well next season and we've not signed X, Y, and Z, and we're starting Fred and McTominay every, you know what I mean, in midfield, and the football's not the best, then will the atmosphere change? That makes sense. It's kind of a safe year for managers at the moment, isn't it? And like I said, you can't knock Ollie for finishing second and might still win the Europa League, but yeah, mate, we'll leave it there. So I won't take any more of your bank holiday. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
All your time. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure you'll have a few more of
yeah,
these to do,
mate.
won't you?
Nice one. Yeah.
Kind of over the few time. But yeah, that's kind of Dunty's career basically in a nutshell, isn't it?
Nice one. Cheers, mate.